देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायं मुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेष भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमो पङ्कजनाभाय नमो पङ्कजमालिने नमो पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्घ्रि Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 33, verses 13 to 25. Activities of Kapila. Text 13. As instructed by her son, Devahuti also began to practice Bhakti Yoga in that very ashrama. She practiced Samadhi in the house of the Kardama Muni, which was so beautifully decorated with flowers that it was considered the flower crown of the river Saraswati. Text 14. She began to bathe 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became grey. Due to austerities, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. Text 15. The home and household paraphernalia of Kartama, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way by dint of his mystic powers of austerities and yoga, that his opulences were sometimes envied by those who travel in outer space on airplanes. Text 16. The opulences of the household of Kardama Muni is described herein. The bed sheets and mattresses were all as white as a foam of milk. The chairs and benches were made of ivory and were covered by cloths of lace with golden filigree. And the couches were made of gold and had very soft pillows. Text 17. The walls of the houses were made of first class marble, decorated with valuable jewels. There was no need of light, for the household was illuminated by the rays of these jewels. The female members of the household were all amply decorated with jewelry. Text 18. The compounds of the main house was surrounded by the beautiful gardens with sweet, fragrant flowers and many trees, which produced fresh fruits and were tall and beautiful. The attractions of such garden was that singing birds would sit on the trees, and their chanting voices, and as well as the humming sounds of the bees, made the whole atmosphere as pleasing as possible. Text 19. When Devahuti would enter that lovely garden to take her bath in the pond filled with lotus flowers, the associates of the denizens of heaven, the Gandharvas, who would sing about Kardama's glorious household life. Her great husband, Kardama, gave her all protection at all times. Text 20. Although her position was unique from all points of view, saintly Devahuti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied even by the ladies of the heavenly planets, gave up all such comforts. She was only sorry that her great son was separated from her. Text 21. Devahuti's husband had already left home and accepted renounced order of life. And then her only son Kapila left home. Although she knew all the truth of the life and death, and although her heart was cleansed of all dirt, she was very aggrieved at the loss of her son, just as a cow is affected when her calf dies. Text 22. O Vidura, thus always meditating upon her son, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila Deva, she was very soon became unattached to her nicely decorated home. Text 23. Thereafter, having heard with great eagerness and in all details from her son Kapila Deva, the eternally smiling personality of Godhead, Devahuti began to meditate constantly upon the Vishnu form of the Supreme Lord. Text 24 and 25. She did so with serious engagement in the devotional service because she was strong in renunciation. She accepted only the necessities of the body. She became situated in the knowledge due to realization of the absolute truth. Her heart became purified. She became fully absorbed in the meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all misgivings due to the modes of material nature disappeared. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mate. Hare Krishna. So, yeah, let me, yeah, when the Vamsi Vadan Prabhu, whenever you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, from which verse we have to cover? I'm sorry.
From third canto, 13th chapter.
13th to 25, Prabhuji.
Yeah, 13 to
33,
25. Third canto, 33 chapter, 13 to 25, Prabhuji.
13 to 25.
Yeah,
25.
25.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyade Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So in text 13, after Mother Dehuti gets instruction from her son Kapiladev, she begins to practice Bhakti Yoga. And it is mentioned that she practiced Samadhi in the house of Kardama Muni, which was so beautifully decorated with flowers, and that it was considered the flower crown of the river Saraswati. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Devahuti did not leave her house because it is never recommended for a woman to leave her home. She is dependent. Often Srila Prabhupada writes this point that women should always be protected. All this culture of women trying to be independent and trying to match what the men are doing, it is not Vedic culture. Women always need protection under all circumstances, right from the young age. In fact, Srila Prabhupada writes in one purport that when they're young, they need to be protected by their father. When they get married, they should be protected by their husband. And when they get old, if they have children, they should be protected by son. At all stages, women should be protected. And the very example of Devahuti was that when she was not married, she was under the care of her father. And that's what Srila Prabhupada writes here. As soon as she grew up, her husband left. Similarly, the son, after discharging his duties towards his mother, he also left. She could have also left home, but she did not. Rather, she remained at home and began to practice Bhakti Yoga as it was instructed by her great son. Right? So, always we see this example, even Shabari. When Shabari was actually under the care of her spiritual masters, um, she was from a Nishada class, and she was instructed by her spiritual master and her spiritual superiors to continue practicing bhakti, even though they left the ashram and they left to the spiritual world. She was asked to continue practice bhakti. She did not leave anywhere. Oh, my spiritual superiors left somewhere, so I should leave somewhere else. She did not do that. She practiced bhakti according to the instructions, and Lord Ram did come because her guru told that Supreme Lord will come. You practice bhakti as I have instructed you. So Mother Devahuti is also doing the same thing here. In text 14, The details are explained what she did when she was in the ashram. So she used to take bath 3 times daily, etc., etc. And due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, it is the practice of the yogi, brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi to bathe at least 3 times daily, in the morning, noontime, and in the evening. These principles are strictly followed even by some grihasthas, especially brahmanas who are elevated in spiritual consciousness. Elsewhere also, Srila Prabhupada writes that um, even grihasthas who are trying to advance in Krishna consciousness, uh, it is good to take bath 3 times in a day. And Devhuti was, and specifically Prabhupada writes, especially Brahmanas who were second initiated. Devhuti was a king's daughter and almost a king's wife also. Although Kardava Muni was not a king, by his yogic mystic power, he recommended Devhuti very comfortably in a nice palace with maidservants and all opulence. But since she had learnt austerity even in the presence of her husband, there was no difficulty for her to be austere. She was very chaste uh, to her husband, even though she was born and brought up in such a very opulent family, like in the house of Swayambhuva Manu. She was, when Kardama Muni was practicing severe austerities before he created all those uh, mystical aeroplanes and everything, she was with her husband living in very austere conditions without any difficulty. Still, because her body underwent severe austerity after the departure of her husband and son, she became thin. And Srila Prabhupada writes, to be too fat is not very good for spiritually advanced life. Rather, one should reduce, because if one becomes fat, it is impediment to progress in spiritual understanding. Atyahara prayasasya prajalpo niyamagraha. Sri Rupa Goswami writes, Srila Prabhupada is saying the same principle, that it is for ourselves not to judge others, that we should have a control in the amount of prasadam we are eating. Once Srila Radha Gopinath Prabhu, he was mentioning in one class, uh, niyamagraha, that practicing rules and regulations is to take the next step and next step and next step in the spiritual life. In the beginning, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we embrace prasadam. Oh, there is so much prasadam. Let me just take as much as I can. We also here, we eat the way towards Godhead. We keep eating prasadam and we go back home, back to Godhead. But then, as and when we progress, we truly realize that if I eat too much, especially in the evening time, then there is very little time for digestion of prasadam. Then I am not able to rise up in the morning. So, according to our own body metabolism, we need to give time for digestion. So we need to watch ourselves how much prasadam also we are taking. Uh, Radha Gopinath Prabhuji was, His Grace Radha Gopinath Prabhuji was sharing in one class long time back. So one should be careful not to eat too much, sleep too much, or remain in a comfortable position. See, Srila Prabhupada is giving, because even in the first canto, third chapter, 44th verse, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that unless and until we are regulated in the amount of food or prasadam we take, the amount of sleep we do, we rest, and the amount of, essentially, we need to be regulated in eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. If you are not regulated, then it's very difficult to advance or progress in spiritual life. Voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties, one should take less food and less sleep. Srila Prabhupada writes, we should not sleep more than 6 to 7 hours a day. It is an austerity for us. In fact, Lord Vishnu tells to Lord Brahma in his instructions in the second canto that such austerities which we are trying to undertake to please Krishna actually pleases Krishna. It is not that we are performing austerities to become hard-hearted. No. Austerities are meant to please Krishna. Whatever we are trying to do in bhakti is to please Krishna. Samsiddhir haritoshanam. Text 15. The home and household paraphernalia of Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way by dint of his mystic powers of austerity and yoga. that his opulence was sometimes envied by those who travel in outer space in airplanes. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that Kadamba Muni's opulence was envied by some persons who also had mystic powers and used to travel in outer space. Their airships are not like those we have invented in the modern age. There are many such statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam from which we can understand that there were facilities to travel from one planet to another, especially in the higher planetary systems. Who can say that they are not still living? Prabhupada is saying. So there is every chance that there is a portion of the material world, like the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it explains um, a portion of material world that is not visible to our eyes. The speed of our airplanes and space vehicles is very limited. But as we have already studied, Kadamuni traveled in outer space in airplane, which is like a city. He created a city, actually, a floating city, which will move from one place to another. That was not an ordinary airplane, nor it was an ordinary space travel. Because Kadamuni was such a powerful yogi, his opulence was envied by the denizens of heaven. This is a very important principle. Even while practicing bhakti, envy can creep into our heart. I was listening to a very advanced Vaishnav. He was mentioning that envy creeps in. In fact, Amarendra Prabhu, when he came last year to Baltimore Temple, he was mentioning this in his Sunday feast class. When does envy actually come in our hearts, even while practicing bhakti? See, we can learn from this principle here. The mystic yogis who are also able to create planets to fly from one place to another, they also had some opulence. But as soon as they saw another mystic yogi who was doing probably even better and creating much better airplanes, envy started creeping in their hearts. So, similarly, when we are practicing bhakti, when two devotees are doing similar services, say somebody is doing wonderful garlands in the temple, and another devotee is doing also garlands, and one devotee's garland is offered to maybe Srimati Radharani, or one devotee's garland is offered to Radha Madhav, one devotee's garland is offered to Nitai Gaurasundar. Then envy will come. Oh, how only that person can make to Shri Radha Madhav. Oh, some devotee is speaking Harikatha, some devotee is doing wonderful kirtan. The same person who's doing kirtan, why I'm not getting an opportunity to do kirtan? Same services envy can come. So we should be very careful. Envy never exists in the spiritual world, right? Never exists. We read in the third canto. Even we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, even the inanimate, according to our perception, everything is animate in the spiritual world. But even the plants and creepers are non-envious. Everything in the spiritual world is trying to give pleasure to Krishna. They are all together to give pleasure to Krishna. A flower is trying to be as fragrant as possible so that when Krishna walks by, it gives pleasure to Krishna. A grass is trying to be as soft as possible for Krishna to walk because he never wears anything on his foot. Even when Mother Yashoda wanted him to wear something, he never wore anything. So everything, every entity in the spiritual world is trying to give pleasure to Krishna. So we also have to give pleasure to Krishna. So if I envy some other devotee, that doesn't please Krishna. So we should try to pray to Krishna to avoid that. In text 16, the opulence of the household of Karda Muni is described herein. All the opulences are described in 16 and 17 also. The walls of the house were made of first class marble decorated with jewels. And Srila Prabhupada writes, the opulence of household life were exhibited in valuable jewels, ivory, first class marble, and furniture made of gold and jewels. The clothes were also mentioned as being decorated with golden filigree. Everything actually had some value. It was not like the furniture of the present day, which is cast in valueless plastic or base metal. The way of Vedic civilization is that whatever was used in household affairs had to be valuable. In case of need, such items of value could be exchanged immediately. Even in our present life, we have this experience, right? At least in childhood, whatever valuable things we have, At times of need, it was used for some emergency purpose, right? Thus, once broken and unwanted furniture and paraphernalia would never be without any value. Of course, in these days, we are not sure whether that's still happening. People are exchanging it for money, right? This system is still followed by Indians in household affairs. See, Prabhupada is writing that. They keep metal utensils and golden ornaments or silver plates and valuable silk garments with gold embroidery. And in case of need, they can have some money in exchange immediately. We still follow this to some extent. And then in text 18, all the again the descriptions of the palace is given. And in text 19, when Devahuti would enter that lovely garden to take her bath in the pond field, the associates of the denizens of heaven, the Gandharvas, would sing about Kardama's glorious household life. Her great husband Kardama gave her all protection at all times. Now, some important lines Prabhupada is writing. The ideal husband and wife relationship is very nicely described in the statement. Kardama Muni gave Devahuti all sorts of comforts in his duty as a husband, but he was not at all attached to his wife. Very important for us, right? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes um, that he considers all his family members to be the servants of Krishna. He never considers them to be something different. Actual vairagya, actual detachment is to consider anyone and everyone dear to us to be servants of Krishna, because they are also Vaishnavas, they are also chanting Hare Krishna. So here Kardama Muni also gave all facilities as a service to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays the same way. He had 10 children. He was a high court judge. But he prayed and he said that all the facilities that I have, the work I do, Krishna, I am doing only as a servant in this house. You are the proprietor of everything. And all my sons and my daughters and my wife, everybody are eventually they are also servants of you, Krishna. So I am also just doing in that mode. So Kardamuni was doing exactly the same thing. He was not attached to anything. As soon as his son Kapiladev grew up, Kardamuni left all family affection. Similarly, Devahuti was a daughter of a great king Swayambhuva Manu and was qualified and beautiful, but she was completely dependent on the protection of her husband. According to Manu, women, their fair sex, should not have independence at any stage. See, Prabhupada writes this very often. Women cannot be left independent. Oh, I can live by myself. I don't need any protection. Hmm. Either we should have protection of guru or husband or son. Otherwise, women are very vulnerable, especially in today's society. I was hearing a class some time back. A Vaishnava was sharing that even in holy dhams, we think that, oh, I will just leave my family and I can go and stay in the holy dham. Even holy dhams are dangerous today if we are not staying in the under proper protection. I don't want to mention the examples that was quoted in the class. Even while trying to go for some parikrama and holy dhams, women are being attacked. It's very dangerous. We are living in a very precarious yuga. Even holy dhams can be dangerous. So women should always be protected. And Devhuti demonstrated all these statements of Manu Samhita, Prabhupada's writing. As a child, she was dependent on her father Swayambhuva Manu. Later, she was dependent on her husband Kardama Muni, in spite of her opulence, Prabhupada's writing. And she was later on the dependent of her son Kapiladev. And in text 20, although her position was unique from all points of view, saintly Devahuti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied even by the ladies of the heavenly planets, gave up all such comforts. She was only sorry that her great son was separated from her. See, Devahuti, it is explained here that she was not sorry for giving her material comforts. Prabhupada is writing, but she was very much aggrieved at the separation of her son. It may be questioned here that if Devahuti was not sorry to give up her material attachments, why she was so sorry to lose her son? Why was she so attached to her son? The answer is explained in this verse. He was not an ordinary son. Her son was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can give up material attachment, therefore, only when one has attachment for the Supreme Person. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Param Drishtva Nivartate. Only when one actually has some taste for spiritual existence can he be reluctant to follow the materialistic way of life. Dehuti was able to give up all the opulences, but she was feeling very sad to give up the association of her son because he was Krishna. Who wants to give up association of Krishna? We see even in the 10th canto, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, they couldn't bear the separation of Krishna. When Krishna left to Mathura from Vrindavan, when Akrura came and took him. Later, when Uddhava also comes and tries to pacify the Vrajavasis, the Vrajavasis are, Uddhava comes and tells you should meditate on Krishna, he is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is there within your hearts. When you are talking about him, it is not different. Nanda Maharaj was saying, what are you talking? He is my son. He may be God or anything, but he is my son first. Jagannath Mishra also, when Nimai used to go and steal and create a lot of havoc in the neighborhood, Jagannath Mishra, the people used to come and complain him, just like how the Gopas and the Gopis used to come and complain Yashoda Mata that your son is coming and stealing butter. Nimai also used to do a lot of mischief. And Jagannath Mishra, he starts taking a stick and starts chasing Nimai, just like Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Maharaj never did that, but Jagannath, at least as far as we are aware of from Bhagavatam, but Jagannath Mishra takes a stick and starts chasing Nimai. Today I will really teach you a lesson. And then people in the house, they stop. They say, you should not beat such a young child. But then Jagannath Mishra said, he is my son. If I don't teach him, who will teach him? This is their mood. When Krishna is there, they forget that he is God only. They forget that Nimai is Krishna himself, Jagannath Mishra. So, Prabhupada is writing, when one actually has some taste for spiritual existence, he can be reluctant to follow materialistic way of life. Unless and until we develop some inclination towards Krishna, artificial renunciation is Falgu. Falgu renunciation. Prabhupada writes, monkey renunciation. It's like I'm just artificially giving up and I'm thinking that I'm renounced, but actually we are not. Now, we have to develop a higher taste by performing bhakti. And that is when true renunciation happens. And in fact, in the first canto, 8th chapter, when Queen Kunti mentions that she prays to Krishna, that she wants to even give up the association of the Pandavas. And in that purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, renunciation or detachment means to widen our field of spiritual activities. His Grace Radha Gopinath Prabhuji was mentioning in the class, this is what actual detachment means. Detachment means not just giving up and trying to do our sadhana and bhajan by ourselves. Widening our field of activities is to perform bhakti and service. That is what true detachment means. And that is how this param drishtva nivartate comes. The taste for higher taste towards Krishna comes when we widen our field of activities by performing bhakti, by performing service to Krishna, by speaking about Krishna, by discussing with devotees, like-minded devotees about Krishna, by hearing about Krishna. That is widening our field of activities. And by doing that, naturally detachment comes. We don't have to artificially try to detach ourselves from the world, the worldly activities. And in text 21, Devhuti's husband had already left home and accepted the renounce order of life. And then her only son Kapila left home. Although she knew all the truths of life and death, and although her heart was cleansed of all dirt, she was very aggrieved at the loss of her son, just as a cow is affected when her calf dies. Prabhupada writes in the purport, a woman whose husband is away from home or who has taken the renounce order of life should not be very sorry, because she still has the presence of her husband's representative, her son. It is said in the Vedic scriptures, Atmaiva putro jayate. A husband's body is represented by the sun. Strictly speaking, a woman is never widowed if she has a grown son. Devahuti was not very much affected while Kapila Muni was there, but upon his departure, she was very afflicted. She grieved not because of her worldly relationship with Karda Muni, but because of her sincere love for the personality of Godhead. This is what we saw. Prabhupada also wrote in the previous purport. The example given here is that Devahuti became just like a cow who had lost her calf. Prabhupada gives the analogy. Similarly, Devahuti was aggrieved. Please bring my son home so that I may live. Otherwise, I shall die. This intense affection for Krishna, although manifested as affectionate for one's own son, is spiritually beneficial. Prabhupada stating. This intense affection for Krishna, for us to meditate today. Attachment for a material son obliges one to remain in material existence, but the same attachment, when transferred to Krishna, brings one to elevate it to the spiritual world in the association of Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. Srila Rupa Goswami mentions, right? When we post our attachments towards Krishna, that is actually Vairagya, detachment. Our Harinam Prabhu always quotes this. Detachment means attachment to Krishna. Thank you, Harinam Prabhu. Every woman can qualify herself as much as Devahuti and then can also have Krishna as her son. See, Prabhupada is saying, every woman, there is no disqualification in bhakti. If Krishna can appear as a son of Devahuti, he can also appear as a son of any other woman, provided that woman is qualified. If one gets Krishna as a son, one can have the benefit of bringing up a nice son in this world, and at the same time get promotion to the spiritual world to come face to face associate of Krishna. See, Prabhupada is giving us the goal of Krishna consciousness is to see Krishna face to face. That is our goal. And there are no disqualifications for anybody. Prabhupada is writing here. Man, women, there are no disqualifications. And specifically here, Prabhupada is mentioning women. So many disciples of Srila Prabhupada have perfected their lives. So many examples. Her Grace Yamuna Mataji. So many Matajis have perfected their lives and go back and have gone back home, back to Godhead. In fact, I heard from my spiritual master, he was mentioning in one class, he was glorifying Her Grace Yamuna Mataji. We often read there are two types of Bhagavats. One is the book Bhagavatam, and then there is a person Bhagavatam. And Maharaj was mentioning Her Grace Yamuna Mataji is person Bhagavatam. It's a very big statement to make. And Maharaj, he is speaking out of realization. She was an exalted devotee. O Vidura, thus always meditating upon her son, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila, she very soon became unattached to her nicely decorated home. Here is an example, Prabhupada is writing, of how one can elevate oneself in spiritual advancement by Krishna consciousness. Kapila is Krishna, and he appeared as the son of Devahuti. After Kapila left home, Devahuti was absorbed in thought of him, and thus she was always Krishna conscious. How to be always Krishna conscious? Is to be absorbed in Krishna. Her constant situation in Krishna consciousness enabled her to be detached from the hearth and home. Detachment comes only by practicing bhakti. There is no other way. Unless we are able to transfer our attachment to Krishna, there is no possibility of becoming free from material attachment. The Bhagavatam therefore confirms that it is not possible for one to become liberated by cultivation of empirical philosophical speculation. By simply dry gyan, it's not going to help us in any way. Simply knowing that one is not matter but spirit soul or Brahman does not purify one's intelligence. So, to understand that we are not this body, we are the soul is just preliminary. Prabhupada is writing. That is not the end. Even if the impersonalist reaches the highest platform of spiritual realization, He falls down to material attachment because of not being situated in transcendental loving service of Krishna. Aruhya krichena param padam tataha. Lord Brahma, it is mentioned in the, not Lord Brahma, in the 10th canto. Prabhupada often quotes this. Unless and until even a spiritual aspirant who's trying to merge to the Brahman effulgence, there is every chance that that jiva will fall down again to materialistic activities because there is no bhakti to Krishna. Krishna mentions bhaktya tva ananya shaktya aham evo vidarjuna. Only by ananya bhakti, kevala bhakti, only by unmotivated bhakti can Krishna be known. And that is what Prabhupada came to give us. The devotees adopt the devotional process, hearing about Krishna's pastimes, glorifying his activities, and thereby always remembering his beautiful eternal form. Now Prabhupada is giving us something tangible. Devahuti was absorbed in thought of him, and she was always Krishna conscious. Now Prabhupada is giving us how to do that. First, we have to hear about Krishna, Krishna's pastimes, and we should glorify his activities and thereby always remembering his beautiful eternal form. Because by studying about Krishna and by hearing about Krishna is not different from remembering him. Unless and until we remember about a personality, how can I remember him? How can I keep that personality in my consciousness? If I want to remember my family members, uh, I need to talk about them or I need to have some conversation about with them. Otherwise, I cannot remember them. If I need to remember a personality or my friend in my childhood, I should have had some relationship with that person. Otherwise, how can I remember that person? I cannot remember anybody. By rendering service, becoming his friend or becoming his servant and offering him everything that one possesses, one is able to enter into the kingdom of God. So Prabhupada is writing, we have to aspire to perform pure bhakti. As it is said in Bhagavad Gita, Tato mam tattvato gyatva. After discharging pure devotional service, one can understand Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In fact, thus one becomes eligible to enter into the association in one of the spiritual planets. So we have to practice unalloyed bhakti to enter into the kingdom of God. Text 23. Thereafter, having heard with great eagerness and in detail from her son Kapiladev, the eternally smiling Supreme Personality of Godhead, Devahuti began to meditate constantly upon the Vishnu form of the Supreme Lord. And 24-25, she did so with serious engagement in bhakti. Because she was strong in renunciation, she accepted only the bare necessities of the body. She became situated in knowledge due to realization of absolute truth. Her heart became purified. She became fully absorbed in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all misgivings due to the modes of middle nature disappeared. Hmm. So, bro, in this one translation itself, we can see pretty much the stages of bhakti that Prabhupada often quotes from Srila Rupa Goswami, right? That first we have some faith, Adau Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, then we practice bhakti under the guidance of Guru. Then Ananta Nivriti happens. Misgivings in the heart is purified. Only when the heart is purified by the fire of practicing bhakti and with sadhu sangha, then we can try to absorb ourselves in meditation on Krishna. Otherwise, it is an activity of our mind. Our acharyas say, at the present stage, like at least myself, very difficult to keep the mind in one place because our mind is not purified yet. Just keeps going here and there. But when our heart and mind are purified, our mind will remain still on chanting the holy names. Our mind will remain still on remembering the pastimes of Krishna. It is not that I'm remembering the pastimes of Krishna, suddenly I'm thinking about what I'm going to do in work today. This is what at least I'm doing now. But when we are progressing in bhakti, here how exactly Devahuti is saying that she became absorbed in meditation on Krishna. And because of that absorption, all modes of material nature disappeared. From there, one's progress is very fast, our Acharya says. That once a person becomes fixed and their mind is still in absorption of Krishna, they very quickly progress from there. And that is why Prabhupada is writing, the Bhagavatam says, all misgivings due to modes of middle nature disappeared, which means she attained the stage of Bhava stage, where Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, they are no longer uh, pulled by these modes of middle nature, suddenly getting angry, suddenly speaking something. That means I am still a conditioned soul. But unless and until a person is fully absorbed in Krishna, never waste the time. How do we judge a person? Not by seeing how many shlokas they know, or I heard this from a very advanced, not by uh, what to say, how many shlokas that they can quote here and there. Not like that. That is one way. But the actual way is avyarta kalatvam. One of the symptoms Srila Rupa Goswami mentions for a person who's really, truly, spiritually advancing under the guidance of a guru, they never waste time. We see, even in our eyes, right in front of our eyes, there's so many Prabhupada disciples when we see. Um, got the good fortune to meet His Holiness Bhakti Vasudev Swami Maharaj. He came, right, 2, 3 weeks ago to Baltimore. I had the opportunity to go and meet him and bring him to a local program here. He just spoke to me maybe 2 or 3 sentences when I met him the first time when I went upstairs to pick him up. And then after that, he quietly picked up his bead bag. He came downstairs, he entered the car, never spoke a word. He just asked one thing: how long would it take from here to reach the home where the program is going to be hosted? I said, Maharaj, maybe 15 to 16 minutes. He immediately took his bag and started chanting Hare Krishna. This is the sign of a really advanced Vaishnava. They never waste time. Never waste time. And we should seek out and we should hear from such advanced devotees. And that is when we can actually purify our hearts gradually. I'll stop here. I'm sorry for going over time. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Shamsuddin Prabhu, for a wonderful class. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a question, Prabhuji. Is it if
Yes,
you have
yes, yes.
Prabhuji, that Nimai parents know that he is a form of God when he was born?
Sorry,
Like
Mataji?
Chaitanya
Hmm.
Mahaprabhu's parents know that he was a form of God?
No, they did not.
Then because when you are telling that he is a form of God, still he hates him. That's what I was confused.
He
So
did many miracles. Chaitanya Charitamrita explains he did many miracles even when he was a boy. When he was a baby, his footprints had a mark of symbols. Like just like we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, all the auspicious symbols that are there on the foot of Krishna, everything was there. But his parents were covered by love. That is the opulence of Vrindavan on Navadvip. Actually, Jagannath Mishra and Shachimata are Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj in Navadvip. Just like how in Vrindavan, even if somebody comes and tells that Krishna is God, they will not believe. They will say, "Oh, Nanda Maharaj was telling Yashoda Mata, how? That is not possible. When there is thunder, he is going behind Mother Yashoda's sari. How can I believe that he is God? He is not God." So that is their mood. That is their bhav. That they completely forget that he is God. Right? So many examples are there. But even in Navadvip, they never, even for a second, they think that or they thought that Nimai was Christian. So that's how they were able to. That's how Krishna also reciprocates. Krishna wants to reciprocate with his devotee like that. He didn't want them to see him as God. Even momentarily, when Mother Yashoda saw all the opulence within Krishna's mouth, when she asked him to open the mouth to see if he really ate dirt or not, she was momentarily thinking, but then Krishna immediately covered her up because that is um, obstructing his experience with Mother Yashoda as son and mother. The same thing in Navadvip. Shachi Mata was so much having affection with Nimai, that even after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became sannyas, he always, even to after taking sannyas, Shachimata never wanted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go very far away, because then she will not know what he is doing, whether he is eating properly. She was still thinking that he was a kid. So she suggested that I am staying in Navadvip. You please just go nearby, somewhere in Jagannath Puri, because Navadvip and Jagannath Puri are like two rooms within one house. So at least I will, through devotees, I'll hear about you, what you are doing and what are your activities. This is Shachimata. And Mahaprabhu reciprocated with her love. Even when he was not able to come personally, Shachimata used to offer his favorite food that he used to eat every day. And Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that he will secretly come and take all the offerings every day. And Shachimata would think, oh, I just offered, why the plate is empty? And then she will think that, oh, maybe I forgot to offer it in the plate. So she will again go to the kitchen and come and offer. Again, it will be empty. So this is the loving exchange that goes on between Krishna and his unalloyed devotees. They forget that Krishna is actually God. And that is there in Navadvip as well as in Vrindavan. That is why it is said Navadvip and Brajbhumi are non-different. Non-different. Both are same.
Thank
Is
you
that
very
okay,
much.
Mataji? Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.